morning, everybody. May the 4th be with you. I'd like to call to order the open meeting for Thursday, May 4th, 2023, and ask the Commission Secretary for information on today's agenda.
Each commissioner has independently reviewed the minutes of the open meeting of Thursday, April 27th, 2023, and each has informed me there is no need to discuss the minutes.
I move we approve the minutes of Thursday, April 27th, 2023.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Each commissioner has independently reviewed the agenda, and each has informed me there is no need to discuss the notices associated with agenda items 2 through 6. Agenda item 7, approving the report to the legislature on Wisconsin holding companies for year 2023. The draft order to reopen and request for comment in docket 5 AE 219 associated with agenda item 8. Or the suggested minute associated with agenda item 9, approving all the proposed reappointments and new appointments to the Universal Service Fund Council as proposed by commission staff.
I move we approve the notices of investigation associated with agenda items 2 through 4.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. I move we approve the notice of proceeding associated with agenda item 5.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. In docket 5 TI 2998, I move we approve the notice of proposed rescission.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. In docket 9400 2023, I move we approve the report to the legislature on Wisconsin holding companies.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
In docket 5 AE 219, I move we approve the draft order to reopen and request for comment.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And finally, in docket 5 UF 2023, I move we reappoint 4 members and appoint 1 new member to the Universal Service Fund Council, as described in the staff memo.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to agenda item 10, which is docket 3960-WI-100. This and the docket that follow are investigation into 2 water utilities for a potential failure to charge reasonable rates. In this particular case, the Mount Sterling Municipal Water Utility located in Crawford County received a letter back in October of 2021 outlining commission staff's concerns with the financial strength of the utility as a result of 2 consecutive years of operating losses. That letter encouraged the utility to file a conventional rate case within 45 days. We also provided information about our simplified rate case process as an interim step. In response to that letter, the utility did file a simplified rate case application, and the rates were effective April 10th of 2022. That final order then estimated that the utility would continue to operate at a loss and encourage the utility to follow up with a comprehensive rate case application. We have not heard back from this utility. So the utility didn't request that comprehensive rate case application within the specified 30 days. They did then follow it up in December of 2022, but as of April 4th, we had not heard anything additional from the utility. Excuse me. And so one of the reasons why we take the time to do the financial outreach that we do and that we try to get the utilities to come in and file rate cases is because we want to ensure that the utility has the revenues that are necessary to keep investing in the infrastructure that's necessary. And so when that doesn't happen, we then have the ability to take formal action to help resolve the ongoing financial situation. So in this particular case, we have a couple of options in front of us. We could open up an investigation under the statute and determine whether or not the rates that are currently in place are reasonable. So for this one, and we did this recently with the Goodman Sanitary District. And so for this one, I think it's really important that we continue our oversight over the rates that are being charged and that we ensure the financial health of the water utilities. This one, I'm at alternative 1 and subalternative A and B, but I have a couple of suggested changes. So I would be at alternative 1 where we open up that investigation under 196.28. And then subalternative A is direct commission staff to issue an order requiring the utility to provide additional information by filing a comprehensive rate case application within 30 days. So I would reduce the 45 days to 30 days. I would then include the language in subalternative B, but I would add the language that we first incorporated in that Goodman decision, and that is, I would direct the utility to work with staff to provide a bill insert with standardized language to explain the additional costs to customers. And that's because, as we've discussed, municipal utilities don't have shareholders. And so if the utility is going to incur additional costs by having us to hire an outside consultant and then pass those charges on to their customer, I think the customers of the utility need to understand where those costs are coming from. And we did talk about this a couple of months ago, and I just think it's a good idea. We don't have a lot of tools. We can't say that this should come from shareholder dollars, but I think it's really important that the customers of the utility understand that if they are subject to additional costs, that's the reason why. So I'm at alternative 1, subalt A, changing 45 to 30 days, and subalt B with the addition of providing that language on explaining those additional costs.
And that would just be if we have to contract with an
Yep.
outside firm?
Yep.
Okay. I'm in the same spot as you as far as looking at alternative 1 and subalts A and B. I'm fine with that additional language. I can join you at 30 days. I didn't have a problem with 45, knowing in particular, the two utilities that are up today are really small. That some of these issues are just person power and focus, but understanding that 30, I'm okay with 30 days.
Okay.
If that's where we land,
Yep.
so.
If I could just have a clarification, the alternative is that staff could do it as well as a consultant. If staff does it, there still will be
Okay.
additional cost to the utility.
Okay.
So, if you want that, if staff does it or.
Right.
They're, then they work with the bill insert.
Correct.
Okay.
Good.
I'm good with
Commissioner
that.
Strand?
I agree, and I appreciate the change to B, because I do think it makes it more transparent, and I think we should be as transparent as possible.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You're good with 30 days too? Okay. All right. In docket 3960 WI 100, I move we open a summary investigation consistent with our discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 11, which is docket 5730-WI-100. Similar situation, although I would argue this one is even a little more egregious. This relates to Stone Lake Sanitary District, their potential to not be charging reasonable rates. Their last comprehensive rate case was in 2013. And the last time they utilized the simplified rate case process was in 2011. So when I read this one, my first question was, can we just skip and go right to the end? But I understand that it is a people problem, right? I mean, it's resources, and so I am sensitive to that. But I'm going to be in the exact same place as I was in the prior docket at alternative 1, subalt A, changing 45 days to 30 days, and subalt B, adding the additional requirement that if there are additional costs associated, that notification be placed on the bills.
I'll join you at that.
Okay?
Same.
Okay.
In docket 5730 WI 100, I move we open a summary investigation consistent with our discussion today.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that moves us to agenda item 12, which is docket 5TI-101. This is the joint application of Wisconsin Electric Power Company and Wisconsin Public Service for approval of modifications of the solar now and dedicated renewable energy resource pilot and approval of the renewable pathway pilot. So we discussed this entire docket on March 16th at our open meeting. And as a result of our discussion, we had some follow-up questions, and so we directed staff to work with the applicants to provide additional information as it relates to the Renewable Path Pilot Program. And in particular, we had raised some questions about the company's existing green pricing programs, the subscription rate, the question about renewable energy credits, and the potential, or if there was a potential for double counting. And so in response to that, the applicants provided additional information on April 10th. They were also invited to respond to the comments that had been filed by other parties because they hadn't had the opportunity to do that. And so after reading the additional information that was provided, there was a change in the subscription rate. And after adding in additional costs, it results in a slight reduction to the subscription rate. And the company also provided red line versions of the tariffs to reflect those changes. So if we go back to our original memo, our decision points start on page 21. Yes. Okay. And so for this one, I'm at the same spot that I was on March 16th. I'm going to vote to deny the Renewable Pathway Pilot Program. My concerns about the renewable energy credits were explained, and I'm comfortable with the way that the renewable energy credits would flow under the program. I just can't get past my concerns about this type of a program where the ownership of the facilities, that the customer's only option if they want additional renewable generation is to have it be owned by the incumbent utility. I've said a number of times that I feel very strongly about the utility not abusing its monopoly position to edge out developers, especially as it relates to private industry, commercial and industrial customers wanting to site generation on their own land. I also was concerned about the fact that when we received the construction applications for Red Barn, Paris, and Darien, there was no mention of the fact that those projects were needed because of the Renewable Pathway Pilot. And it came through in the comments about, I think it was the city of Milwaukee said, well, perhaps if there was a percentage where you said 50% of the load to be covered by this pilot has to be served by new generation that wouldn't have been built but for the existence of this pilot. And I think that that's a good start, but I think for me, it just lays bare the fact that these are projects that have already been approved. We didn't approve them because of the number of subscribers under this program. And so my concerns at a very high level remain about the proper place for continued utility ownership of customer-owned, the demand for customer-sited generation. So because of that, I'm at alternative 3 for both utilities, both WEPCO and Wisconsin Public Service. And if we can open it up now to hear where both of you are, because then that'll determine whether or not we need to go through the deferral and the waiver requests and everything else.
Yep.
So, Commissioner Huebner?
Yeah, thank you very much. First, want to thank the applicant for their responses. I thought they, responded, I thought, pretty comprehensively to our questions as well as to the comments that were raised by the previous commenters, Renew and Vote Solar and Cub. So I appreciate that. I see where you're coming from, Chair, and I, however, am going to vote to approve this. I do view this as an option where some customers, in particular, obviously, City of Milwaukee is listed here and commented in support that there's kind of this emerging, evolving, and growing marketplace where lots of different products are becoming available. In this particular one, it really is similar to the program that Xcel Energy has, which I was comfortable with. And so I don't know where this leaves their existing green pricing program going forward, if this becomes a better option, a less expensive option, or if this really is just appeals to certain types of customers. And I guess I didn't see this, unlike the Solar Now, where I felt that really it was the same building, the same school. You could either, the school could put the solar on or the utility can put it on. I guess I view these as different in that these are really off-site projects where, like, for example, the City of Milwaukee, there's no way they have enough roof space to meet if they have 100% renewable energy goal, for example. So they are going to need some off-site type of projects. And I guess I view this as a wedge in that potential set of strategies that might work for some customers. And I didn't have those concerns. So I do think, as I talked about on March 16th, the renewable energy rider is another option specifically for customers that want a project like right on their site or it's smaller. So I don't preclude, that program. I think that program could be really successful too and should probably be expanded to more rate classes than what it is today. But I guess I didn't view this as fatally flawed. So I'm at Alt 1 or Alt 2, and really the question I have, and we'll see where Commissioner Strand is whether the 6th month versus the 12th month. I think that was the only question I had left. I did appreciate how the applicant ran the numbers, including the tax credits, and I thought that was a great suggestion from the previous round of comments, and obviously it made a difference. It lowers the premium. So I guess I'll leave it there, Commissioner Strand, to see where you're at. Okay.
Thank you. I could have gone either way on these. I understand Chairperson Vox's concerns, but I agree with Commissioner Hebner that I don't think that those are fatal flaws. I think given that the fact that this is a pilot program gives us an opportunity to see how it works without being completely wedded to something because of its pilot nature. I also think there are probably some opportunities for Pub Service to explore some options in their territory as well, since we're really kind of focused on the City of Milwaukee here. So I'm with Commissioner Hebner. I'm curious to hear if you have a preference between 6 and 12, because
my preference is the 6 month, specifically because that's what City of Milwaukee asked for. And then when WEPCO did their reply comments, they basically pointed back to the City of Milwaukee as kind of the first mover customer. So it would seem to me that there's not a huge difference between those. But if that makes the most likely customer more easily sign up so that this program can work, I would lean that way.
Yep, I'm comfortable with that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Chair, do you want me to run backwards through the other ones then? Or
Sure.
did you want to respond to?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would have also set it at 6 months. I think 12 months is punitive. I'll just respond to the comment about the City of Milwaukee. The City of Milwaukee tried to install rooftop
Yes.
solar panels.
Yep.
Let us not forget that, and they were precluded from doing so. But I would also be at 6 months, and then as it relates to the deferral request, I would not allow deferral.
Okay. And then I think there's a couple behind
The
that
waiver.
on 19 and 20.
Just waiver, right?
Yeah, the waiver, and then the prior one is customer notification on renewals on page 19.
So for that one, on page 19, I would be at alternative 2, which would direct them to work with staff on developing the standard notification to customers, to let them know that they could be eligible for a lower rate. And then I would also set that early termination at 6 months.
Okay. And I was at Alt 2 as well on the customer notification on page 19. And then for the waiver on page 20, I was at Alt 1. I didn't have any changes to the waiver.
Yep,
Okay.
I was at the same spot.
Same.
Okay, and then you mentioned your spot on deferral. So I talked about this with staff pretty extensively on the deferral, sort of what is the deferral. My understanding for this particular program is the deferral would really be the revenues that are coming in from the customers that sign up. And I felt like that was appropriate. I think our staff felt like that was appropriate, just because otherwise that revenue's coming in and not being specifically directed to this program. So I was good with the deferral. And I had marked being okay with both alternative 1.
One's with, one's without carrying costs.
Right, or alternative 2, whether we include carrying costs. I'm fine with short-term debt rate on that, and then I would also include sub-alt A, that this is for accounting purposes only and doesn't bind the commission. So if that's clear as mud,
Yep, I agree.
where are you at?
There.
Which one?
Deferral, okay with deferral,
Okay.
and the waiver. Wait, do you want all of them or just for that one specifically?
I think you need to go through all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. So on 19, Alt 2 for 19.
Okay.
For the waiver, alternative 1 as filed. For, let's see, I said yes to the program. Deferral accounting, I'm comfortable. We didn't have a similar conversation, but I'm comfortable with where you are, Commissioner Hebner.
Okay. So that'd be Alt 2 at short term?
Short term.
With
yep.
sub-alt A?
With sub A, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, and I'm at alt 3.
Yep.
And I will write a dissent.
Okay.
Ready for the motion? Okay, in docket 5 TE 101, I move we approve the Renewable Pathways Project for WEPCO and WPS and have staff prepare an order on all matters in this docket, consistent with our discussion today and our prior discussion on March 16th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. All right, that moves us to agenda item 13, which is docket 4220-TE-113. This is another pilot that we also discussed back on March 16th, and we asked for additional information. In particular, this is the multifamily housing electric vehicle service pilot. And we had raised a couple of questions about how the applicant would manage the EV charging equipment. We had some questions about disconnection and billing questions. We did receive additional information from the applicant. They filed on April 10th. And there's no question that there is a lot of need for this type of a program for multifamily housing developments. And the applicant is proposing 2 types of billing, standard billing design and assigned billing design. We talked about location of the equipment and having questions about who is in charge of the actual cost. And so based on the additional information that we received, I'm comfortable approving this as a pilot. We do have some questions. Because my computer wasn't working, I don't have the, that latest, yes, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Because we have to make sure that we hit all of the proposed conditions and reporting requirements. So for this one, I'm at alternative 2, which is approving it with conditions that we are going to talk about. So the first condition relates to reporting requirements. We have talked about in approving other EV pilot programs, we've talked about the NIST standard as it relates to meter accuracy. And those standards are now in place. So rather than the September 1st, 2023 date that is in our memo, I'm going to propose that the reporting back on meter accuracy standards should be filed to us within 14 days of our order. And that's because they're already in existence, so nothing needs to be, we don't need to wait that late. God bless you. And then there were additional conditions that I would like to be added for this particular program. In particular, I would like to know about the number of disconnections, the number of customers who have dropped out, and whether or not there have been residential disconnections under the assigned billing, program. So I would add those, and I would bring all of the conditions and reporting requirements from alternative 1. And then I would add the additional conditions that are outlined in alternative 2. So that specifically relates to directing the applicant to develop participant customer outreach, requiring the applicant to include the comprehensive list of responsibilities as part of the 10-year agreement. And then for the alternative meter accuracy, I wouldn't have that, again, be September 1st. I would have it 14 days from the date of the order. And I think that's it on conditions and reporting requirements from me. So Commissioner Huebner?
I'm going to join you in the same spot, Chair. I was at alternative 2 on approving this program with conditions that we'll describe. I thought NSP did a nice job of answering the question. So again, thank you for that. I think it was the right decision to, some of the other, like the residential commercial that we took up were really simple changes. And this was obviously a new program with a lot of details. And I mentioned to the staff, coming from the energy efficiency world, you can see why the multifamily market is called hard to reach, right? There's a lot of variation, a lot of details. And so it's going to take, detailed program designs like this to probably reach those customers. So I will join you. I'm at alternative 2 as well on the conditions and reporting requirements with the additional 2 that you mentioned. Agree on the change with the NIST effectiveness and thank to ChargePoint for pointing that out in their comments. And then I'm fine with the additions that you mentioned here verbally, Chair, on disconnections and number of customers dropped out. I will join you on those. So.
Okay. Great.
I'm in agreement, same spot, and I appreciate the changes. I think that makes it even better.
Okay. All right. Great.
And just a point of clarification from a carryover from the last meeting, we had that same NISTA reporting date as September. We will update that when we do now the final decision to have it apply to all of the programs.
Correct.
Great. Okay. So then we move to page 32 of our original memo, which is maintaining and extending the waiver request. So for this one, I'm at alternative 1. I would approve the proposed request to maintain and extend the waivers approved in docket 4220-TE-104 as filed.
I'm in the same spot.
I am as well.
Okay, and then finally, there's a waiver request of Wisconsin Administrative Code 113.04064. So for this one, I would actually add the language that we talked about in the WEPCO and pub service docket, which is that any customer choosing to be served on this rate schedule waives all rights to any billing adjustments arising from a claim that the bill for service would be cheaper on any alternative rate schedule for any period of time, including the rights under PSC 113-0406 paren 4. I think it's just important, that customers understand what the implication could be.
Yep, I'm in the same spot.
Okay?
I am too.
Great, great.
Okay, in docket 4220 TE 113, I move we approve the multifamily charging program and have staff prepare an order on all matters in this docket, consistent with our discussion today and our prior discussion on March 16th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we move to agenda item 14, which is docket 9808-CE-100, and Commissioner Hebner is going to lead this discussion.
Thank you very much, Chair. On October 15th of 2021, the commission issued a final decision in this docket authorizing a permit with conditions for a 100-megawatt AC solar PV facility in Polk County. On July 21st of 2022, the applicant submitted a request to reopen the docket seeking commission approval of a 100-megawatt AC battery energy storage system, or BESS. On September 20th of last year, we issued an order to reopen the docket, along with ordering a supplemental environmental assessment be produced. We received public comments during that supplemental environmental assessment process, and then we also had 3 additional public comments filed in this docket as well. The supplemental EA reviewed environmental, endangered, and historic resources, land use, noise, and wetland and waterway impacts, and concluded that the construction and operation of the BESS facilities described in the reopening request are not anticipated to cause significant impacts that require the production of an environmental impact statement under Wisconsin statutes 1.11. This BESS, or battery storage system, would be, as the solar PV was, a merchant generation facility. So under the CPCN statute, we are not looking at need and economic factors. We are looking at the design and location being in the public interest, considering alternative locations, individual hardships, safety, reliability, and environmental factors, as well as the orderly land use and development plans for the area involved. I did not have any issues related to any of that. The PSC engineering staff also reviewed the application and identified that the full capacity value of the battery storage system may not be realized because the interconnection queue position for the entire solar plus battery is only 100 megawatts. So if you've got 100 megawatts of solar and 100 megawatts of battery, you couldn't put all that energy into the grid at one time. As I reviewed this, I really found that to be mostly an economic question, or I should say entirely an economic consideration as to how this merchant facility would choose to charge up that battery and discharge it, whether they're really doing that for capacity or whether they're doing that to what you would call energy arbitrage, charge it up when it's cheap energy and send it back when it's expensive. I don't think we know yet, and I think the MISO rules are changing, and maybe some of these haven't even been written honestly about how to maximize the value of energy storage systems. So to me, the fact alone that you couldn't discharge the battery at the same time the solar is producing, to me, was not a reliability or safety or an environmental precursor to us approving this merchant plant. So with that said, the first item that we have up is on page 11 of this memo, and that is related to the request to add 100 megawatts of battery storage system. I would make one small tweak to alternative 1, and this is consistent with what we do in our CPCNs, which is to say you can construct up to the nameplate capacity. And I think that just gives some clarity to make sure that we're authorizing up to a 100 megawatt battery system. If this merchant developer goes along and finds out that it's more economic for them to build a smaller one, then this permit just very clearly says we've looked at the maximum impacts of this at the 100 megawatts, and I'm comfortable with that or anything less than that. So that would authorize the construction of the addition of up to 100 megawatts of BESS capacity. So with that, I'm at alternative 1.
Okay. I will join you there, and I just want to acknowledge that we received some comments that indicated that some people who were in the project area weren't aware of this request for reopening. And I just want to make it clear that the people who indicated that they weren't made aware were actually on the WEPA mailing list. And they did receive a letter that was dated January 26th. So I think it's just important to point out that I read the concern, I read the comment, did follow up, and determined that those individuals are on the WEPA mailing list, and they did receive a letter. So that I will join you at alternative 1 with your proposed modification.
Okay.
I agree. I like the setting the ceiling, so it gives them a little more flexibility. And the notification issue came up in our briefings as well, so thank you for that, Chair.
There's, the next item up for us is on pages 12 and 13, and that's conditions. I think it's really important, and this is set up, that all the conditions from our final order would carry forward. And then additionally, there was 3 listed in the staff memo, and I would be proposing to add a 4th. So I'm gonna be at alternative 2 with subalts A and B and C, and I would add the condition that we've talked about in the most recent solar and battery dockets, and that is related to the applicant shall construct, maintain, and operate the best facilities to follow industry safety best practices for ensuring battery fire safety.
And just a point of clarification, alternative B asks for a time period specified by the commission. When we have imposed that similar condition, the time period that the commission has previously said is prior to commencement of operation, the applicant shall, and then where the second bracket is, a copy of the protocol shall be provided to the commission prior to operation of the facility.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed that, and I'm comfortable with those phrases.
I am as well.
Me 3.
Are you both okay with adding the best practice fire safety language?
Where are you adding it?
So it would just
As
be
a
an
separate-
additional, it would be a
Okay.
subalt D,
Okay.
an additional requirement?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Okay. And then our final decision point is whether or not we complied with WEPA, and that's with stats 1.11 and Wisconsin Admin Code PSC 4, and I'm at alternative 1 that we have complied.
I am as well.
All right. In docket 9808 CE 100, I move we approve the request of Apple River Solar LLC to add up to 100 megawatts of BESS battery energy storage capacity consistent with our discussion today.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is our final agenda item for today. Our next open meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 18th, 2023 at 10:30 a.m., so no open meeting next week.
I move we stand adjourned till May 18th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.